So, Yousef, lovely to meet
Yes.
you. First of all, I just know you from Instagram, but I feel like I kind of know you from sharing your content. And just want to
Yeah.
say off straight off the bat that a good few people have contacted me to say, please thank this man for helping them with their sanity over the
Yeah.
last few months. So that was a comment that came up time and time again. So I said I'd pass that on from my followers to you.
Yeah, it's really a pleasure to speak to you, Taig, and it's my moral obligation to report on what's going on in Gaza, Palestine. I've been reporting nonstop, although I'm reporting from a distance, but it's my duty to do so for the past 6 months. When I was in Gaza, of course, I was reporting on the ground, and my family are in Gaza. I lost dear members to my heart from my family. I lost overall from my relatives. You're talking about 65. Our family is big family
My
back home,
God.
and you're talking about cousins, yeah, aunties and stuff. And also, I lost journalist colleagues. I lost neighbors. We lost our houses. And this is not the first time that we are subject to this cruelty. This is the sixth major unallowed war, but this time it's a genocide, of course. You're talking about the
Yes.
largest number ever the Palestinians have lost in one single attack. And also, you're talking about the entire city. The Gaza Strip has been destroyed by now. And you're talking about humiliation, starvation. You're talking about blockade, siege. It's unbelievable that the world is allowing this to happen, despite the UN Security Council ceasefire resolution. We know that Israel is bragging and continuing with its assaults and killing and destruction, attacking hospitals, blocking the entry of aid, and they don't just care. They don't consider us exist. We in their eyes are
Yes.
subhumans. They collectively punishing us. They enjoy this impunity. They have never been held accountable. That's why they carry on with their crimes. As if you ask anybody in Palestine, they will tell you, the Israelis are a spoiled pariah rogue state. Even the U.S. administration, they give them instructions to stop, maybe for media consumption. But I'm sure many Americans are not happy from this behavior because they are tarnishing the image of their ally, the
Yes.
USA. They are tarnishing their image, but they don't care.
Mm.
They use Gaza as a scapegoat to scare other nations nearby. And they are using Gaza as a testing experimentally ground to test the latest weapons. You've seen the horrific injuries and burns. It just the whole thing is
Yes.
total shocking. Like the videos, hundreds of videos we are sharing and we continue to share. That's why I'm exhausted from this coverage because we try to take a
Of
break, but each
course.
time, each time, and then so many videos coming, keep coming, and we cannot stop. That's why, I my platform has grown rapidly from
Yes.
100,000 to almost a million now.
Can I go back for a second, and I just want to ask a human question? And I think when people talk about loss of life, I certainly feel anyway you need to tread carefully me asking you the questions, because the level of loss of life you've had personally, I find it hard to get my head around that loss of life. How do you manage to, in any way, I obviously you haven't had time to grieve. You couldn't have had time to grieve. But how do you manage that loss of life for you personally, and then doing the activism that you do at the same time?
Yeah. So my journalistic work stems from the fact that I'm a journalist for the past almost 20 years. So when I lost my sister and nephews and nieces and cousins, we believe this is all written. It's God's plan. We believe in destiny. We believe in qada and qadar. And life carries on. Life goes on. So we are sad. I mean, at the moment, of course, I collapsed when I heard the news from my brother. We grieved. We have pain inside us.
Yes.
Maybe you don't see our tears, but we are full of anger and frustration and sadness and sorrow and agony. We keep it inside us. That's why there's so much stress going on amongst the Palestinian people, either those inside Gaza or those in the exile. So watching from a distance is also more painful because you cannot do anything for them. You cannot protect them. All what we can do is raise awareness, um, send money to them, pray for their safety, try to stay in touch and encourage them to be strong because they live in the world's largest open air prison, which
Yes.
has been transformed recently into a concentration camp and then transformed into an extermination camp and then transformed into the world's largest graveyard. It has become a graveyard for children. In some Alawites and Rhodes in Gaza, Taig, there are some graves on the main roads because people
Yes.
have no space to bury them in the cemetery, and it's dangerous for them to go and bury them to give them a dignified burial. So maybe we are steadfast because we have got used to this suffering. It's not the
Yes.
first time we've been suffering for decades. So we have adjusted, we have accustomed to this kind of suffering. The suffering, you imagine a suffering is a body, it lives inside you all the time. So it has become part of our daily life, this suffering.
Mm.
So God, maybe we are the chosen people because I can't imagine other nation would bear this
Yeah.
tremendous suffering and brutality and oppression and injustice. I think the Israelis are, they hate us so much because we are steadfast and because we are refused to vanish,
Yes.
because we are strong in terms of spirit, and because we refuse to admit the defeat, because obviously, we are the indigenous people of the
Yes.
land. And when they try to demonize us, to dehumanize us, and try to justify their attacks, giving all these kind of fabrications, false videos, fake videos, misinformation, propaganda machine. They employ lots of resources in order to justify their attacks, and the world knows them now for being lying about,
Mm.
the when first October the 7th happened. Of course, we've heard these kind of allegations about beheading
Yes.
babies and raping women and so on. It proved to be a total lie. So we are strong because we have nothing to lose. At the end of the day, when you lose your houses, when you lose your loved ones, when you lose your dignity, when I mean, we didn't lose our dignity, but we feel sense of desperation,
Yes.
a sense of abandonment that you are alone in this. The whole world is watching us being slaughtered, even our neighbors who struck peace deal with Israel.
Yes.
And Israel tries to convince the world that it is after the bad guys Hamas, but it is after the whole population of Gaza. It wants to ethnically cleanse the whole population. It wants to inflict heavy damage. It wants to flex its muscles in order to scare other countries in the region.
Mm. I thought of a comparison with Ireland when you were talking about, because that is my experience with Palestinians here in Ireland as well. When you speak to them, you just feel like these people cannot be defeated. That there's something about the spirit, no matter what, and everything you described that they've gone through. And it feels like the more brutal Israel is, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, we've never seen this scale of brutality. It has always been a brutal state, but we've never seen the
Mhm,
scale before. And in my own
mhm,
understanding of history
yeah,
in Ireland, when the British were at their
mhm,
most barbaric, when they carried out the worst atrocities, that was the time where the sense of Irish identity really kind of grew, and the sense of Irish republicanism and anti imperialism. Do you feel, to go to something hopeful
yeah.
straight away, do you feel that all this barbarity will ultimately lead to Palestinian statehood, because something has grown even within Palestinians and also around the world, this demand for statehood and justice for Palestine, it's not going away? Or am I being fanciful there? Am I being overly optimistic?
Yeah. So I believe that the more Israel becomes brutal,
Yes.
the closest we are towards regaining our denied rights, our inalienable rights,
Yes.
because the world is shocked. Because Israel tried to portray to the world that it is, the land of milk and honey, and Israel has got you know, you come
Liberal
and invest,
utopia. Yeah.
yeah, secular, they welcome the lesbian and gay community and so
Yes.
on. They try to portray themselves as the dove piece.
Yeah.
So uh, I think we have reached a turning point. Well, the world is not going to accept Israel's excuses and justifications. The world is shocked from the brutality, from the savagery of the Israeli army that try to, you know, convince you that they are after releasing the hostages, but they have killed their own hostages.
Mm,
They are not interested in releasing the hostages because the other party, Hamas, they said they are willing to strike a prisoner swap deal, but it is Netanyahu's interest, and it is in his interest to stay in power because he's the the longest serving prime minister in Israel's history, and he doesn't want to appear he's a weak, and he doesn't want to end his political career by admitting that he lost this battle with the Palestinian resistance in Gaza.
yes.
So we have reached a point where the Palestinians they are adamant, they are steadfast, and they say, "Look, we are not going to raise the white flag. We have a just cause. We are fighting for this just cause, and we want to have our Palestinian dignity, Palestinian state. We don't want to live under Israeli military occupation forever. Palestine is the only country on earth that is still under colonization.
Yes.
Israel is the last remnant of colonialism.
Yes.
And they invite settlers from New York, from different countries across the globe, and they tell Palestinians, you have to migrate to Europe. And I can't understand. They portray themselves as a European nation, but I mean, Israel, Palestine, it's in the heart of the Arab world, in the heart of the Middle
Yeah.
East. So you cannot claim that you are part of the Western world in Europe and you are planted like a seed in the heart of the Middle East. Um, we are tired from this hypocrisy and double standard policy, Tyke.
Yeah, of course.
Honestly, we are peace seekers. We are not asking for too much. Hamas represents a small, represents a, a certain percentage of the Palestinian society, but the whole Palestinian society, of course, we aspire for self-determination, for freedom. We want to have a control of on our land, on our seaport, airport. We would like to have our own currency. We would like to build our own project. Israel controls everything in Gaza. They claim that they withdrew their forces back in 2005, but they still control everything goes in, goes out.
Yeah.
Look what they are doing with the aid convoys. Look what they're doing with the airdrop from the air. They still control our frequency. We don't have internet now in Gaza. GT only. Um, no electricity, no water, nothing. Gaza is the world's largest open air prison.
Yes. And like as I was saying to you at the start, I am kind of desperate at this point to highlight the hypocrisy as much as I can do with my platform or whatever in the West. And like we were speaking about beheaded babies at the start. So whilst you and I know that that's laughable propaganda, the thing is, even in Ireland, which is a pro-Palestine country in terms of the people, there's still this kind of veneer of doubt about the propaganda. So I had a conversation with somebody as recently as about a month ago saying, yeah, look, I support Palestinian rights and all that, but I mean, like the beheading babies on October 7th, that was bad. Like, why did they do that? And I think, and I'm just going to throw something at you, on social media, people are social media
Mm.
savvy, they know that it's bullshit, right? But some people just still watch BBC and they watch CNN and they watch in our country RTE, and they don't see enough refutation of the propaganda, so it's just left in that state where they're not quite sure. Like, what can we do in the West to make people crystal clear that this is a regime that lies to protect itself, to protect its barbarity and genocide?
Just ask for the evidence. As simple as that.
Yeah.
6 months on, some of them they still, argue that this fake story exists. Show us any proof. No one of those, alleged people who were subjected to rape, they came forward. We didn't see footage. I mean, you remind me of one of the Zionists who jumped into one of my live streamings on Instagram. I didn't know he was a Zionist, and he tried to attack. He was irritated, was angry, he was shouting. We are calm people as Palestinians. We are very
Yeah.
calm. We know that our calmness annoys them. So he was shouting, screaming, "You support Hamas, blah blah blah," and you should call for the release of the hostages. I said, you cannot dictate me. You're not allowed to dictate me what to say, what to report. You should be thankful that I'm giving you the chance to speak on my platform.
Mm,
I wanted people to show your reaction. You are a vicious, angry person. Just you need to calm down. I know that you don't like us to raise awareness. And all the time he was saying, we were arguing about this at this point. The rape story is fake. And I told him, show us any proof. There is no written articles. There are no names of women, no videos. He said, do you want me to show you women being raped? I said, no, you're so stupid. I don't want you to show me that. No, I just want you to bring me any kind of evidence, like,
yes.
Blair face a woman she's claiming to be raped, for
Yeah.
example. Different accounts of people, witnesses, and so on. And the babies. I told them, look, you can see thousands of our videos of our children being killed and torn apart and limbs and amputated. We are okay. We are showing you our babies being killed. Show us your claims.
Yeah.
I mean, you are lying. Even they created a AI image of a child, of an Israeli baby, claiming that he was baked in an oven,
Yes.
and it turned out it was AI footage. It was debunked by one of those experts. So at the end of the day, propaganda is being used to justify Israel's attacks on the Palestinian people. But despite these fake videos, some people in the West, they still somehow reluctant to change their position. They say, well, look, the Palestinian people, they support Hamas as a terrorist organization. Probably it has tempted to do tie with
Of
racism.
course.
When you look at the Palestinians, brown people, when you look at the Israelis, some of them white
Yeah.
people, although they have Arab Jews, brown Jews, black Jews, but at the end of the day, they enjoy this impunity. They have a powerful propaganda machine. They are good in PR, to be
Mm,
honest. We have to admit they speak good English and so on. So the West is somehow they are tricked into to believing them because they enjoy and they have this powerful machine of propaganda. We try our best to raise awareness. We are left alone in this battle. Look who's supporting Israel. The great superpowers of the
yeah.
world, many
Great
countries across
the
the world,
colonial powers.
yeah,
Yeah.
colonialists, supporting them with weapons. And I like Sam Zomrot, the Palestinian ambassador. He said to Mr. Western media, Israel doesn't have a right for self-defense. It's the Palestinians who have a right for
Correct.
self-defense because we are the under occupation. The Israelis are the aggressors. They are the victimizers. They always play the victim card. Whenever they just feel that they are squeezed in the corner and they are exposed, they say, well, look, it's Palestinians who started it. On October the 6th, Palestinians have been suffering for decades under military occupation, and
Yes.
no one was talking about that previous suffering. All attention was focused on that one. But look, I always said in the media that as a Palestinian, we are against the killing of innocent people from both sides. But Israel, there is nothing justifies Israel genocide in Gaza whatsoever is the reason. You cannot just kill 35,000 people and 14,000 children and attack hospitals, mosques, churches. Christian community were attacked as well. And you say, well, look, we are doing this for self-defense and because Hamas using people as human shields. No, it is you Israelis who are using us as human shields. They are collectively punishing everybody. They are opening fire on everybody in Shifa hospitals, killing doctors, ambulances, journalists. They did not spare anybody. Even the aid trucks were attacked. Actually, they use truck aid as a bait. They allow the truck aid to reach south part of Gaza City as a bait, and as soon as these hungry people swamp the
Yes.
aid trucks, they open fire on them. It's like sitting ducks.
It's disgusting.
They
It's
enjoy the
disgusting.
they enjoy killing. For these teenager soldiers, of course they have this kind of arrogance, personalities. Being in the IDF, defending Israel, they are brainwashed. When young people are brainwashed, obviously they are giving all the green lights to commit all kind of atrocities and massacres. So when they employ these killing drones, controlling the drone with joystick and opening fire on civilians and innocent people. Of course, this makes them feel powerful in the sense that look, we are, powerful country. No one dares to criticize us. And of course, when they use the F-16s, F-35, the tanks, the artillery, the latest weapons, the mortars, etc., they feel that they are playing
It's
a
a
video game in
game.
Gaza.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, it's also a hunger game. They enjoy it when people are hungry and rushing to retrieve the aid that landed in the sea. 12 Palestinians drowned in the sea the other day. They like it when hungry people, escape, and it's like they control people. It's a hunger game. It's a video game, which is disgusting.
Like on that, and it's easy for me to say this because they're not mass murdering my people at this moment in time. But do you have some empathy for young soldiers um, who have been fed that propaganda their whole life? Because just if you were to put them on a grade of responsibility, it's the propagandists who filled these young people's head with this racist shit that, as you said, I think that's such a brilliant analogy that that's when you watch their abhorrent TikTok videos, it feels like they're not real. Like it feels like they're not really getting their head around the fact that they're murdering people. They're murdering individuals who aren't like them, as you say. I've heard you say that before, where it's
Yeah,
that they're not real people. They don't really exist to them. Do you have
yeah.
any empathy for the young, radicalized soldier? And I know, like, they're probably low down your list of empathy right now, but like, do you know what I mean?
No, they have no excuse. I mean, we cannot forgive them for what they are doing because they can tell what's right and what's
Yeah.
wrong. They are human
Yes.
beings. You can tell this is innocent person, and you can tell this is an old
They have
man or a woman
souls,
or a child.
presumably. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and they cannot just continue be blind and pretend that all Palestinians are bad. Uh, there are some people in Gaza. They never been Hamas supporters, and now they are supporting the resistance because they say if Israel doesn't differentiate between Hamas and non-Hamas, everybody's going to support the
Of
resistance.
course.
And these young people, they are indoctrinated, they are brainwashed, they are distorted mentality. I watch a guy, a Palestinian American in the States. He allows people to join his live to jump in, and some Israelis to jump in, especially teenagers. He start asking them, "Are you in the idea of how many Palestinians killed?" And they are happily they say, "Yeah, we kill Palestinians, children.
Yes.
We will kill more." It's like normal for them. It's like ducks, sitting ducks. They become proud. The more they kill Palestinians, the more they become proud about it.
Mm.
It's like, what the hell is going on, man? Like, these people are mentally
Yeah.
sick. They are psychopath.
Yeah.
Israel is a country erased on committing violence. Isn't Israel doesn't survive without violence. It has to come to provoke Palestinians in order to survive, in order to blackmail Germany, to extort Germany and the West, in order to ask for weapons, in order to play the victim card. It cannot live in peace. This is the nature of Israel.
Mm.
And its people, all the time, they have to be inciting against Palestinians to say, look, Palestinians are violent. And when Palestinians, they respond and resist and seek revenge, it's the Palestinians' fault. This is the thing. They cannot live in peace.
Yes. Yes. I just to bring it back to Ireland for a second. Obviously, what would it be me? But I have heard you speak eloquently about the British and Irish context on this, and I've heard you speaking about the so-called famine in Ireland. I have a lot of Irish American listeners, so we're at a stage of the annihilation now where it's a man-made famine. And what would you say to Irish Americans who would be either indifferent or on the side of the Zionist project right now when we have the context that we have?
They have to look back to their history, to their roots in Ireland. The famine, which was supported in one way or another by the British colonialism at the
Mhm.
time in the late 1800s, it pushed many Irish people to the States, and they should remember those sad moments when potato ran out, and even Biden himself, he has got
That's
roots
right.
in Ireland. I think history should teach us a lesson that we shouldn't allow other nations to suffer. Like many Jewish people say, not in our names. And what's that phrase? Not again.
Yes.
But it's happening
Yeah.
again. Israel is exterminating an entire nation. Like they are hungry for revenge. 35,000 is not enough for them. So I tell those Americans who support Israel, in one way or another, At the end of the day, we are human beings, and life is too short. I mean, for how long you're gonna be in the wrong side of history? Just take a courageous, brave position, and say, look, Israel has gone too far. This cannot go on. Palestinians deserve to be a free nation. Palestinians deserve to have, a liberated country of their own. Israelis, they know that, they came from Europe before 1948, and they are occupying Palestinian lands and occupying Palestinian houses until now. And they say that it's a land promised them by God. But there is contradiction because you cannot claim to be a Zionist and then you're talking about God. If you are a
Yeah.
Zionist, you shouldn't talk about religion. But when you tell me that you're a Zionist and this is a land promised to you by God, it just messed up. It's a
Mm.
contradiction. So, and the Americans, they should actually look at what their tax money is doing to Palestinians in Gaza. You know, Americans are paying the tax, and this tax is being used by the Israelis to buy bombs. Whereas Americans inside the USA, they suffer from many crises, housing problems, medical health problems, and infrastructure. Look at the Baltimore bridge that fell
Yes.
down. America should invest in the infrastructure and fixing that bridge, for example, and stop supplying Israel with weapons. The Americans, I think, they started to wake up now, and I think they are outraged from the stance of the U.S. administration for turning a blind eye to the plight of the Palestinian people and for emboldening Israel to continue with its genocide and military occupation and colonization.
Mm. I think as well on that point, I've got good faith in young people, and I know you agree. Like I was talking to Daniel Mate, who's a big pro-Palestine activist. He was in Cork over the last few days, and he was making the point that basically young Jewish kids, they're more likely to be liberal these days, especially in the US and whatnot. And the support from younger Jewish communities is waning all the time for this state, and especially in the light of the level of barbarity that has happened in the last few months. It seems like it's becoming a generational kind of thing as well. But there is, and I've heard other people raise this issue when they're talking to you and others. But do you feel like Israel in its current form, the government in its current form, when it is the most right wing government we've ever seen there, there's no chance of negotiating with a state like that, is there? Like, I mean, again, in the Ireland Britain context, you got to a point where negotiations were possible, but I can only imagine the level of anger and hurt and frustration that Palestinians have right now. I mean, to be negotiating with a state like that, how could that possibly happen?
Yeah. The change also has to come from within the Israeli society. They have to rise up and say, look, we cannot treat our neighbors in this
Yeah.
way. So there are so many Israeli Jews, they oppose the practices of Netanyahu's
Mm.
government. And of course, they say that what Israel does in Gaza will not make Jews safe worldwide. On the contrary, Jews will be subjected to mistreatment because the whole world see what Israel does to innocent Palestinians. There are so many young people. You are right. I see them on social media, uh, grandsons and daughters of Holocaust
Yes.
survivors, and I also see many Israeli intellectuals, historians, Ilan Pape,
Mm.
Miko Peled, Amira Haas, Godon Levy, Haaretz. These voices are marginalized, but the more voices we have, the better the chance is to maybe these people will impose a pressure on their government to change its course because the practices of Netanyahu's government when he is relying on Gvir, a settler, the security minister, and also um, the finance minister, you're talking about a government is supported by the extreme settlers. So as long as this government exists, I don't think there's a chance to strike a peace deal with the Palestinian
Yes.
side. And even Netanyahu said, and many officials, including the Israeli ambassador to the UK, all of them, they said, two-state solution is dead. We are not going to allow a two-state solution. So they are killing any prosperous, peaceful method to settle this conflict. So as long as these people in power, there's
Get
no
it? Yeah.
chance for peace to prevail. So, and look what happened when they assassinated Rabin in the
Yes.
90s after striking peace deal with Arafat. They killed him. It's the extreme right wing um, faction in the Israeli society that is not interested in peace. So we know more voices of moderates in the Israeli society, and they have to realize that American support will not last forever because Israel wouldn't survive without Western support, to be
Mm,
honest. I'm just being
of
honest with it. This
course.
is what all Palestinians say. Imagine if Biden decides, sorry, if Biden decides to cut the aid to Israel financially and
Yeah.
militarily,
Falls apart.
Israel would suffer.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
fact.
There's a friend of mine, before I forget, a friend of mine, Talha, wanted to ask you, so Gaza, and it's obviously incredibly difficult for you to get your head around this at the moment, but when Gaza is rebuilt, what are your feelings on the Palestinian Authority in that space, and who should run Gaza, and what's the future of Gaza as somebody who was like you were born and reared in Gaza, you grew up there, like, so what's your feelings on that?
Yes, it's sad to see my city destroyed. I was born there in a coastal city. That's why we like to live near the sea. So the future of Gaza should be decided by the Palestinian people. The Palestinians will not allow any foreign power to set foot in Gaza, whether it's Americans, Turkish, European, whatever. Palestinians have to rule themselves. So either if it's the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, I think this is one of the options. Palestinians, they have to govern themselves. So it's not known what's the near future is hiding for us because this genocide is ongoing,
Yes.
and we cannot, predict what's going to happen because they might decide to stay in Gaza and to build Jewish settlements in the north. This is what many senior settlers they have been saying, and we've seen these interviews of those settlers. They say that we would like to enjoy the beach of Gaza and annex Gaza because it's a big chunk piece of
Yes,
land,
yes.
and they wanna annex it. The reconstruction of Gaza will take at least 10 years. Removing the rubble will take some years. And who's going to control what goes in, what goes out? Israel. So again, we are back to zero, square zero. Israel is occupying Gaza. If Palestinians enjoy, freedom and liberation and sovereignty, they would rebuild their town and cities in a matter of months. But now Israel is going to control and to restrict the amount of cement, steel, pipes, glass, wood, raw materials, etc. So there must be a solution that really tackle the root cause of the problem, not only Hamas. Hamas was born, was established because of the occupation. If Israel doesn't occupy Palestine, you wouldn't see any Palestinian resistance groups.
Mm,
This is also applied to the IRA. IRA was
exactly.
established to resist British colonialism. As simple as that. And Hamas can be part of any solution, by the way. They can become peace dogs, and they can be recognized as heroes. Today's, as the verb goes, one man's terrorist is another
Freedom
man's
fighter,
freedom fighter.
exactly. Yeah.
So Israel cannot just pretend you know to rely on the military solution. There must be a political solution as well.
Mm. I mean, like on that one, a quick one, and I won't take up much more of your time now. I just have one or two other things I was going to say, but um, like the stated aim that we're getting in the West, anyway, certainly from the outset, is destroy Hamas, release the hostages, destroy Hamas, and make Israel safe going forward. I think most people in the West know that make Israel safe going forward is ludicrous. Like that's. I mean, if you're waging war on all your neighbors, if they're bombing Lebanon, they're making Gaza unlivable. Like, we know the resistance won't accept that. But the stated aim of destroying Hamas, in your opinion, because to me, from my perspective, if Hamas is the resistance, the idea of destroying Irish resistance during colonialism, well, it never happened. The Irish resistance would go away and it would come back in a new form, and it would be stronger, it'd be better organized, and it'd be better funded. So, is the idea of destroying Hamas stroke the resistance. Is that as ludicrous as it sounds?
Even if Hamas disappeared from the scene, the resistance will continue. More resistance groups will be
Yeah.
born. As long as Israel controls Palestinians and occupies Palestinian lands, Palestinians will always have the sense of resistance. It's deep rooted in Palestinians' hearts and minds. Israel will never feel secure as long as it controls Palestinian lands. Hamas is a pretext. Believe me, Hamas doesn't exist in the West Bank, and yet they are killing Palestinians, arrest Palestinians almost on a daily basis, steal Palestinian natural resources. They make Palestinians' life miserable in order to push them to exile. And the same is happening in Gaza. They are after the land. They want Palestinians to be expelled and vanish. They are ethnically cleansing the Palestinians, and they are continuing this campaign because they are worried from the demographic growth. You're talking about 2.5 million people. It's a ticking bomb. Um, you know, and they say that we are not responsible for the welfare of Gaza, but they still control Gaza. I mean, why they just don't, admit that they control Gaza?
Mm.
Because as an occupying power, they are obliged under the international law to look after the needs and welfare of the people under their
Yes.
occupation. If they claim that they don't control Gaza and they withdrew their forces, we need to see that in practical on the ground. You know, I mean, they are. I mean, well, I'm trying to understand the mentality here.
Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes we say, I mean, are we dealing with people with minds or something? You claim that you don't control Gaza,
Yeah.
but you are controlling Gaza. We are not, uh, liberated.
Yes.
We are still under their mercy. So, getting rid of the resistance, it's a mirage. I don't think any force on Earth will be able to uproot the resistance. It's an idea. You cannot kill an idea, even if they try to transform Gaza into New Dubai, into New Singapore, as was
Yes.
expected. There are some people will still have the feeling of revenge because their land is still occupied. So, if Israel ends its occupation, then at that time, people might say, look, we have accomplished the job. There is no need for armed struggle.
Yes. I was just going to say to, and it's the last thing I'm going to ask. So people in the West, right? So most of the people listening to this podcast will be from the West. They might be getting march rally fatigue. Like even in my own little city of Cork, we've been marching for 23 or 24 weeks, and the numbers have stayed pretty solid actually. But it's always that thing of trying to get more people out, trying to keep people out. What more can we do? If you were to advise people in the West, what more can we do in terms of contacting government, or what would be your top tips or the message you'd like to give people in the West right now? Of
Keep the pressure. Don't give up. I know we are consumed. We are exhausted. Even us Palestinians are exhausted for after 6 months.
course.
Believe me, it's too much to handle. Uh, I mean, there are so many ways that people can continue and keep the momentum by continuing these kind of uh, protests, by writing to MPs, by advocating for divestment, BDS campaign, by advocating and supporting Palestinian businesses, by visiting the occupied territories. Being present on the ground is important to support Palestinian economy and to see by yourself what's happening on the ground.
Yes.
People can go to the West Bank, but coming to Gaza is not possible because if you would like to come to Gaza, you have to fly to Cairo. And from Cairo, we take a transportation to Gaza, about 5, 6 hours drive. But the Egyptians at the Rafah crossing, they wouldn't allow you to enter Gaza because you don't have a Palestinian ID. So although Egypt is a sovereign country, but still, they are abide by peace treaties, and they don't allow people to come into Gaza without kind of coordination with the Israeli side. And we don't know what's going to happen if people volunteers in their hundreds now. If this genocide ends, hopefully soon, so many people will be interested to go and show solidarity and bring badly needed aid. We don't know if the Egyptians would allow these volunteers to go. But there are so many people things also can be done online. You can watch films about Palestine. You can pressure your government to stop supplying Israel with weapons like the UK. I don't know what's the situation with
Yes.
Ireland. You can always call for the withdrawing the Israeli ambassador and held them accountable. You can, write articles. Uh, I can't think of other ways, but to continue keep the pressure is the most
Yeah,
important thing.
just to keep going, as you say, like, yeah. And I mean, I speak hopefully for a good few people in my city and in my country, that understanding your history as well is another thing that we can do. Like if you're from a country who has experienced colonialism like Ireland, this is a time to reach out in solidarity, because you get to understand your own country's history at the same time. Like the Palestinian friends I've made in Ireland, like I'm getting so much from them. It's a two-way street. It's a beautiful symbiotic thing. They're making me understand my own country and my own country's history just as much as I'm getting a sense of theirs.
Yeah, and by also arranging these workshops and seminars at universities, invite Palestinian speakers to speak at
Mm.
events. I'll be speaking in the northern part of
Oh
Ireland,
yeah, great.
elsewhere, and yeah, hopefully we'll meet our Irish comrades. At the end of the day, we are not inciting for
Of
violence. No
course.
one is interested to lose their loved ones. There is oppression, there is injustice, and we need to address this injustice.
Yes.
Life is too short. The world must pressure Israel to end its prolonged occupation. Look, if we are thinking about the environment, about the climate, and going to the moon, but there are some people closed-minded. They just, look underneath, under their foot, and just kill each other for the sake of land. Come on, what's going on with these people?
Yes.
It's just the greed, the need to sell arms, the need to sell medication, the need to control other people. There are some people think that they live in the old era of enslaving other people. What Israel is doing is a modern slavery. They control Palestinians, and this control cannot last forever.
Yes. Okay, man. Look, an absolute pleasure and an honor, and a sincere condolences as well to the family members that you've lost. I've definitely heard interviews with yourself and with other people where I just, yeah, sometimes that passes the Western journalist by to offer sincere condolences, I think, to the loss of life.
And I would like to say, Shairala, our day will come.
Nice one.
Our day will
Chucky
come.
Arlaw, my friend,
And
indeed.
Shirkala, yeah, I'm trying to pronounce it very well. And to those who are watching, as I like also always to echo what Desmond Tutu, the South African Archbishop, he said that if you are neutral in situations of injustice, then you choose the side of the oppressor. And as Nelson Mandela said, our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinian people. Israel wanted to wipe out Gaza, Palestine, but the whole world became Palestinians. The Palestinian flag is being waved all over the world. Some governments they tried to ban the Palestinian flag. I saw the other day this Israeli kind of activist. He tried to become famous on social media. He went to a Palestinian restaurant in London called Hiba, and he pointed at the flag and say, "Oh, Hamas exists in London." They are trying to distort the facts,
Yes.
giving the impression that the Palestinian flag represents Hamas. These people are sick, man. Like this is the Palestinian flag. And also, I'm happy to see the Palestinian kufiyya being worn around the necks, and people
Yeah.
waving the kufiyya. It has become the symbol of Palestinian struggle and freedom. And again, Palestinians have tried all kinds of resistance, peaceful, armed, whatever. Israel is not happy with any kind of resistance, whether it's peaceful or non-peaceful. And I wish and I pray that the Israelis will realize that their violence against Palestinians will not push Palestinians to vanish. And we refuse to go to the museum, as we say.
Yousef, Gurmagat, August Chucky Arlaw.
Our day will come. Thank you so much, Taig.